December 8th, 2017.
And this is Nerd Bourbon episode 27. I am podcasting expert and extraordinaire, Seth Sturgill.
I don't know about that. And I'm Todd Sturgill.
Well, let me adjust my podcasting monocle, Todd, because that's what this episode is about.
What?
Yes.
What's going on?
This is the podcast episode, Todd.
Oh.
Beautiful. I mean,
you
were aware of this.
Was I? No.
So this episode is an evergreen episode. The reason that we're doing an evergreen one, this is the first of several evergreen episodes that you guys are kind of going to get this month. And again, this is just in an effort to make sure that we never miss an episode. Consistency is key. That's something that I'm sure we'll talk about later. We have the topic that we have planned for today, and I don't know how long this episode will be. I don't know how much juice we'll get out of it, but if you like it, maybe it's something that we'll talk about more in the future. But this is going to be sort of the podcasting episode. We're going to talk about podcasting, and we're going to talk about how you get into podcasting, the sort of equipment that you need, the best practices, the things that we've learned. We've been doing Nerd Bourbon for 6 months now under this relaunch. Todd and I have done podcasting together in the past, but we're sort of going to give you a walkthrough of our journey and the things that we've learned, so that maybe you will have tools to start your own podcast, and maybe we'll update as we learn more, throughout the years, doing Nerd Bourbon. So. This is, like I said, the first of many evergreen episodes for various reasons that we're doing this month, and I hope you dig it. So let's just jump right into this, man. I think the first sort of thing we should address is how you start a podcast. So when we decided that we were going to be doing this thing, what would you say would be the generalized way we went about the startup process?
I mean, I think we both sat down and talked about it, because we originally did the podcast 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And I've jokingly, said while we were playing games, and then this would be a real good episode of Nerd Bourbon.
Yeah, because we did 1 or 2 episodes or something like that, and just the problem, and this is something I'll talk about later. The problem is that we weren't committed at all. Mm-hmm. We were just sort of when I came into it, I've always wanted to do podcasting. I really enjoy doing podcasting, and I never committed to the idea of it, though, and I think that's the problem. I always wanted to have a casual we'll just record whenever we want. You can't do that.
No, you can't. You do have to set yourself up to a schedule. You need to be we'll get more into that later on, but yeah, we both sat down I think at one point, and it was just you want to do this type shit?
Yeah, I mean that's that's the thing. Be it a solo podcast, or if you're doing it with a friend or a group of friends or whatever, you need to start up. You need to have an idea of what it's going to be, or figure out what it's going to be. Because we're still figuring out the show. I mean, we've been doing it for 6 months, and I mean, shit, we just recorded an episode that had no real structure, Yeah,
it was, it was virtually no structure.
We experiment with stuff. I add in new segments all the time. This show is very, very fluid, and it's growing as we're growing with it. And, but I think the most important thing, and this sounds like a very dumb and obvious answer, how do you start a podcast? You start,
You start it.
You have to start. The cool thing about podcasting is, and you see a lot of independent podcasts out there that are very simply just recording off of their built-in laptop audio. Are you going to get great audio out of that? No, but at least you're recording.
Yeah, at least you're actually doing something.
And the tools are out there. We use, to this day, we still use and I'm not saying we're some kind of expert, fucking primo podcast, but I'm pretty proud of the quality that we get out of this shitty little free independent podcast run by 2 people. I'm pretty happy with the quality that we have, and we use a totally free. Audacity is a very free, very popular audio editing software and recording and editing software, and it's nothing fancy or special. It's just anybody could use it, and anybody has access to the equipment that you need to start a podcast. And another thing that you need to start is you need a hosting service for your podcast. We use SoundCloud, a lot of podcasts use SoundCloud for a few reasons. SoundCloud is nice because it does a few things. So you can put forth the money to be SoundCloud Pro, and then you have access to your RSS, and you can use that to get on iTunes and Google Play, and we'll get into the weeds on that a little bit later. But it's important to have like a home base for your podcast, because SoundCloud being our sort of home base, we are able to have unlimited uploads onto a unified sort of front with SoundCloud. And from there, it also branches off into automatically updating our iTunes, our Google Play, like every venue that we're on is fed through SoundCloud. So it's really important to find a place like SoundCloud when you start your podcast. And even on a free account, you can, I think, get 3 or 4 or 5 hours of free audio.
Yeah, it's a good thing I put the money down for Pro.
Yeah, you gotta. I do recommend going Pro though if you're planning on taking it seriously. It is, I think, $130 for a year of Pro on SoundCloud, which is really not bad, considering how much functionality you get out of it. You are given access to. I'm not trying to sound like a SoundCloud ad, but you get full access to like RSS functionality and the ability to see like detailed stats of your listeners and stuff like that. So it's well worth it, and in addition to unlimited upload length. So and those are really, as far as tools, like you can do just basic stuff. You can just use the built-in audio on your laptop. You can use a shitty little headset. You can use you can have a free SoundCloud account. I mean, you don't need any money at all to start up a podcast. And in fact, if you I think the old episode of Nerd Bourbon is floating out on YouTube somewhere. And
it is. I actually found it. I found the Bloodborne episode.
Yeah.
Our actual mutual friend of ours actually has it on his YouTube channel.
Yeah. So if you YouTube Nerd Bourbon, you can see our shitty little first episode from like years and years ago, and
it's pretty bad.
It's bad. Yeah, I'm sure it's bad. We're way better at it now, but. I mean, that was just me using the stupid little Turtle Beach mic I have, and I think you were literally just using a built-in mic or something.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I was just on a laptop mic, so.
Yeah, so the audio quality's trash, and it's, but we did it, and it's a podcast, and it exists on the internet, and you can listen to it, and that's all you need. All you need to start a podcast, really, is just your creativity,
Yep.
I want to encourage people to just get out there, and if you have an idea and you have the creative drive to start a podcast, just fucking do it. Even if it starts out shitty. This podcast, and we paid good money for good equipment, and you listen to the first and second episode or so of this podcast, it sounds like shit. And the editing that I did is bad. I mean, just accept that when you start, it's going to be bad, and you grow from there,
Yeah. For every episode you learn something new.
Oh, totally. And I'm very proud of where we are now. And I think we've grown a lot in the 6 months that we've been on the air. So what tools do you need? So I kind of went over, there's a lot of free tools, but I do kind of want to go over our sort of setup.
We virtually have the same setup.
Pretty damn much. We literally...
Yeah, 'cause I think we have the same mic arm, the same shock mount, and the same mic for the most part. I think I just have the black mic.
Yeah, so we use a Rode, I think it was $100 or so.
$100 for that. The shock mount I think was like...
I think it was like $60 or something.
Yeah, the shock mount's 60, and the mic itself was about what, 200 plus?
It was like 130, 140, I think.
130. Okay, that sounds about right.
So we use a professional Rode mic arm, which is a very, very nice mic arm. Especially for the price. I mean, $100 for a mic arm sounds like a lot, but it really, for me, is an invaluable tool. And
because again, I actually before I bought it, I actually had a very shitty mic arm, and it could legitimately not hold up the weight of the shock mount and the mic.
Yeah, this mic arm is very, very nice, and I highly recommend it. And I love that it has Velcros for like cable management and stuff. The shock mount that we use, is this a Blue Yeti brand shock
yes,
mount?
this is the official. I think this is the official one for the Yeti.
So this pairs with the microphone that we use is a Blue Yeti Pro, and that we both use, and it is a very, very popular mic for entry level podcasters, independent podcasters. Like I said, I think it was about $130 to $140. You can frequently find it on sale for sub $100. I mean, you're listening to the audio quality of it now. It's a good sounding microphone that I think that I think is well worth the cost. And I mean, again, if you're willing to put forth the money, I think our startup cost for this. So if you break it down, right, $100 to the mic arm, fucking $130 for the SoundCloud, about $60 for the shock mount, and about, let's say, $130 for the actual microphone. And then we both have pop filters, which I think was like $12. We have like I have a windscreen, which I think was like $10. It all told, it's about $450 each.
Yeah.
So, for startup costs, that's really not that bad. It sounds like a lot of money for a little stupid little podcast that nobody listens to, but to drop that much money on it and to get a good sounding podcast, I think is worth it. But the ultimate tool, like I said, you don't need any of this shit. I said this at the top. You can make a podcast just on the back of your creativity and the free tools that you already have. The most important thing, I think, is consistency and dedication. That to me is the most important thing about starting up anything on the internet, because the internet is such a fast and fluid sort of machine that just churns out content. There's so many people making content on the internet. If you are not consistent, they're going to forget about you and drop you like a fucking bag of dirt.
That's some real shit right there.
Because like I for so long, I was trying to sort of like convince myself that like, oh, I can just be casual about it and just record Nerd Bourbon whenever I have time. No, you have to make time for Nerd Bourbon. And there are weeks, I mean, this week is a great example. This is an evergreen episode because there's shit going on in my personal life where like my fiance's dad is coming down. She hasn't seen him in like 10 years. So I'm not going to like worry about recording Nerd Bourbon while he's here.
Yep.
But I'm going to also at the same time make damn sure we don't miss an episode and that you guys have something to listen to. So we're banking one, and I highly recommend sort of sitting down and coming up with a schedule. Some podcasts are daily. I mean, you could do it once a week, twice a week. You can have spin-off shows. Like Todd and I have a million fucking spin-off shows and a million plates that we're spinning.
And there's gonna be more.
We spin a lot of plates for two dudes with no money and no time, but the important thing is that you have some sort of semblance of consistency. There may be months like this month where we don't do a book club. There may be a long gap of time between shots because shots isn't on a consistent schedule. Streams may be spotty or whatever, but god damn it, every Friday you will have an episode of Nerd Bourbon, period. Every Friday. I don't care what it is. If something happened to where Todd absolutely could not record, I would record one my damn self.
Oh, that would not happen, sweet boy.
I know, but I'm just saying.
Time to record.
I know. I'm just saying. Like, you're always going to have an episode of Nerd Bourbon on Friday, and that is such an important thing, is that consistency and that dedication. Like, if you don't have that, you're going to be left in the dust. So, what is Nerd Bourbon's process, right? So let's sort of walk these folks through what we do every week. Do you want
to... bunch of business meetings.
So what Todd means by that is what Todd means by business meetings. We don't just talk on this podcast. We talk like every fucking day. We play games together. Yeah. We play games together. We talk on Skype all the time. Like, that's just how we live our life. And we'll be talking on Skype and we'll have these business meetings where we just talk about the topics that we want to have for the week, if at all. We talk about, are we seeing any movies or anything that we want to maybe do a shots about? If we have any ideas for like new shows that we might want to pitch to each other, just sort of what's going on in our personal world and what we're thinking about for the show. We bounce those ideas off of each other, and that's an important part of the whole process. is, especially if you're doing it with another person, make sure there's communication. Like, it's so important to have communication. And I think that's the only reason this shit works. Because
some would say we have too much communication.
Yeah. That's the only reason this bullshit works, is because Todd and I talk to each other, and we are on the same page whenever we're doing this shit. From there, I typically write out show notes. The main purpose of the show notes, so when we first started, I had very, very detailed show notes where I had like every single solitary thing we were going to talk about. The main purpose of them now is just so we don't forget shit. Really?
That's some real shit, dude.
That's basically what it is. So it's like the podcasting curse is that, like, the second you hit that stop button, you're going to think of something else you were wanting to say. Mm-hmm. But, like, at least you can get your main talking points up there and the main things that you wanted to touch on. And the rest is just improv, just jazz, just talking, just two idiots talking. That's really what Nerd Bourbon is. And so we have the show notes that kind of have the rough draft outline of where we're gonna start. We know where we're gonna start basically, but we don't know where we're gonna end up. And
that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, and ultimately it's also just a way that that Todd doesn't forget what day it's supposed to be, and I don't forget what episode it's supposed to be.
I think I've said the wrong date before. Like, and we had to start over.
Yeah, I think so. And then from there, we set up the actual record. We talk about the day that we're actually going to sit down and record, and we have to carve out a time. Sometimes that's difficult. Todd and I both work. There's stuff going on in our personal lives. Like, sometimes it's difficult, but fucking make that shit happen. I don't care if you have to back end something. I don't care if you have to, like, put something off or whatever, or record it, like, fucking early in the morning like we are doing right now, Mm-hmm. Make that shit work. When we record, what we actually do, and it's probably very inefficient, there are other ways of doing this, but it works for us. What we do is we get on, up until recently, we were using Skype. Skype has this weird thing, like, it interacts with Audacity in this weird way where it, like, makes your mic level fluctuate on Audacity. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, I've actually, I used to watch it. I'm like, what the fuck is this thing? What's going on? Because I think that was before we actually knew that Skype did that.
Yeah, we knew that it was a consistent problem, but we didn't know what was causing it. And then I realized that Skype was what was causing it. So now what we actually do, and this is even more ghetto, you guys will be shocked to learn how ghetto this show is.
It's ghetto as hell.
We actually use the BattleNet voice chat, which is actually, like, shockingly high quality. Like, the audio codec is...
it sounds better than Skype, actually.
It does. Like, it sounds great. Like, the BattleNet voice chat is great, and it's not laggy or anything like that. We haven't really had any problems with it, and most importantly, it does not fuck with the recording volume on Audacity. So... Mm-hmm. That's what we do now, is we talk on Blizzard's app, which is strange, but it works. And we actually sync up our Audacity recordings, just so that it's easier for me to edit. We literally, Todd will do a countdown, just a 3, 2, 1, and then we just, hit the record button at the same time, and we go. Mm-hmm. At the end of the record, we each export our audio files, and a very useful tool for us, and I hope this is for you as well, if you're doing it like Todd and I are doing it, where you are co-hosting a podcast with people who are over the internet, I highly recommend that you get a Dropbox. Now, you can get a free Dropbox account that has some sort of complement of space that should be plenty for you. If you manage it correctly. I have a huge Dropbox for basically no reason. It's because when I worked at GameStop, I was given Dropbox, I think, is owned by Microsoft, and the Microsoft rep gave me a pro Dropbox account. So I literally, my Dropbox account literally has 500 gigs of space or some such shit like that.
Fucking shit, really?
Just some ridiculous amount of space. I don't know if it's literally...
I actually didn't even know that.
Yeah, I don't know if it's actually that much, but it's some ridiculous amount of space. Now, luckily... I'm so OCD, I never keep shit hanging out in the Dropbox anyway.
Oh, yeah, we basically, as soon as we're done with it, we get it. You usually get it out of there.
I like a clean Dropbox, Todd. A very clean Dropbox. But, yeah, a free Dropbox account should give you a sufficient amount of space to do whatever you need to do. And, like we start talking about images that we're going to use for thumbnails, so and stuff like that. And
there's the images we use for that. Then there's also, dude, I always forget. I forget about the money that I've dropped on other softwares that we use.
Yeah, because you bought
other aspect.
You bought like a image editing software and stuff.
Yeah, which has helped out occasionally.
Yeah, and I think that was like $30 or something like that.
Yeah, it was actually got a good deal on it because again, I was looking into getting Photoshop, but I don't like the way they handle Photoshop now because it's like subscription based
now. Yeah, that's
and
stupid.
I'm like, I ain't trying to do that. I'm like, come on. I looked up like what's an equivalent of Photoshop that I can just get for like one solid price, and that is what I use, Affinity Photo, something like that.
Okay,
and it's not bad.
Yeah, it's worked out for us. Todd's able to put together some solid thumbnails with it, and yeah, but all of our file sharing is done via Dropbox. We literally just drop the audio files or the images for Todd's thumbnails or whatever. That's all done via Dropbox, and we share the same Dropbox account, so when he puts something in mine, it just pops up and I can just grab it. Like, it's great. It's so, I'm telling you, it's well worth investing in if you're doing it the way that we're doing it. So from there, I go into my shame hole, and I go into my editing shame hole.
Before you edit, before you talk about the editing, I need to bring up the fact that I do what I name my files now.
Ah, yes, I think I came up with this, didn't I?
You did come up with it, and I've been. I don't remember how long how long I've been using it, but I do love it. I named them Tadios.
Yeah, I think I'm a purveyor of stupid puns. So I think one time I was just like, so yeah, if you just want to drop your audio, your Tadio in the Dropbox,
and I'm like, I'm using that now,
and you've used it ever since. So yeah, as I was saying, I then when I get the my audio and the Tadio together, I crawl into my editing shame hole and I edit. And when I first started editing, editing is just a good thing to learn, audio editing. It's when I first started editing, I was just agonizing over every little and like and every single solitary thing that was not speech. I was just trying my best to cut out. And I was just obsessed with it. I wanted it to just be this. Think of editing a podcast. Think of it as like a piece of steak or chicken or something that you're trying to trim the fat off of. You want to trim off the excess fat. You want, if I'm sitting here like I say way too much, right? But I don't cut out every single anymore. Sometimes you want a little bit of that fat, Sometimes it's good to have that sort of human element in your audio, because if you edit out every single solitary thing and just try to make it perfect, you end up making it imperfect as a result.
Yeah, because it's not as natural at that point.
No, you feel like you're just a bunch of robots. Like if you listen to our first couple of episodes, I think it sounds okay, but like if you look at it compared to now, it sounds like Todd and Seth soundboards. Just I cut out just fucking everything. And I would sit there, and my edits were taking 6, 7, 8 hours,
Mm-hmm. And I think now you've kind of got them down to like an hour and a half to like 4 hours at the most.
There are times when the edit becomes painful, where like there are very long episodes sometimes, and I'm there sometimes editing challenges present themselves where like I'm spending like 30 minutes on one section trying to get something together. And look, I'm not a professional audio editor by any means, but I have gotten a lot better about editing our audio, and I've gotten pretty decent, where I would say that a normal episode of Nerd Bourbon takes me about 2 hours, I would say, on average to edit, which isn't bad. And what I've done now is I like to include timestamps for topics. I do sort of a recent thing that I've worked into my sort of workflow is I like to write down the timestamps as I'm listening to the episode, because, when you're editing your audio for your podcast, you're going to get so tired of the sound of your own voice, because you're just going to be listening to it over and over and over and over. And I like to put in headphones when I edit at max volume, because I want to account for the people who might be doing that. Like, If somebody wants to listen to our podcast with headphones on, blaring that shit into their ears, I want to make sure they're getting a good listening experience too. So I make sure that I sort of blare it to myself and make sure every single thing, make sure it sounds good for anybody that wants to listen to it, you know? So yeah, I mean, the audio editing side is a laborious side, and I take the timestamps, and what I've done recently is I like to make our sort of discussed section a little more detailed, so I actually kind of take note of the things that we're talking about and stuff like that. And once that's all edited to the place that I like it to be, sometimes I put in a little post-credits Easter egg and stuff like that, as you guys know. Once that's to the point where I like it, I put that in Dropbox, and I upload it to SoundCloud privately, and I send it off to Todd, and Todd then gets together the YouTube video. You want to speak a little bit about that?
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, originally, I remember when I started doing the YouTube. Like, I think it was like a couple weeks after we first started.
Yeah, I think it was. I think you actually suggested that we do the YouTube channel.
Yeah, just to get us out on like the other media outlets. So the YouTube aspect is really not that like strenuous of something.
Right.
It's just something I can easily do. I did get a video editing software because I'm not going to be using Windows Movie Maker.
Yeah, but you could if you wanted to use the free. I mean,
now the reason I got the video editing software that I did is in the future when we do start doing more things, I want to be able to do more things.
Right, but again, sorry, if you do want to, like, the tools are available. It might be more annoying. It might not sound as good as something like this or a more professional podcast than this. There are several. It may not be as high quality, but you can make it work on free tools. So just
oh yeah, of course.
Continue.
I mean, like, usually what I do is like I'm in charge of the thumbnails for YouTube, and I deal with the Twitch aspect of that later on, but that's something we can get into later. But YouTube, I get the finished audio file. I get it into my video editing software. I'd make sure the transitions look really good with it. I make sure I've added a couple stupid effects occasionally. I think you've seen them before.
Yeah, you usually tell me when you do shit like that.
Because usually, half the time I don't have to, but usually when you do a stupid Easter egg, I do a stupid effect.
Right.
Pretty sure the stupidest one, I think, was with the Barney.
Barney was pretty stupid. Pretty sufficiently stupid. Yeah. And so when I'm listening to, another thing I should mention, as I'm listening and editing, like, because again, you're going to be listening to your fucking podcast ad nauseum. As I'm editing, I'm also listening out for, the sort of way we title our episodes is it's based on something that is said in the podcast.
Mm.
So I'm waiting for something to jump out at me that Todd or I say. Just a phrase or something that would make for a good title. And from there, based on what we've discussed, that's also how I choose the image that we're going to use for the thumbnail.
Yeah.
Sometimes finding an image for the thumbnail in the case of I don't remember what episode, but the one where we have the Roadhog fan art. I actually made a DeviantArt account to communicate with the person that made the fan art, because you made the point. I just Googled Roadhog fan art, and I wasn't even going to think twice about it, but you made the point that, like, hey, shouldn't you consider not being a piece of shit and getting the artist's permission?
Yeah, that's for something that somebody's created. I was like, hey man, let's ask them first.
Yeah, and that's another thing. If you're going to use something that is created by somebody else, make sure you at least give credit. Like, don't be a piece of shit. Like,
yeah, because I'm pretty sure, even with our intro, our everything that is stuff that we obviously didn't create.
Yes.
Is we have shout outs basically. We have in the description. And
yes.
Even in our about me's usually.
Yes. So our intro tune, intro/outro tune is done by an independent artist actually that's based in Chicago, named Captive Portal, and he does a lot of sort of license-free tracks. And I didn't technically, I guess, need to ask for his permission because he's uploaded his stuff on free license sites and stuff like that, and that's how I discovered him. But I did ask for his permission anyway. Just because he's a cool guy and I wanted to make sure I had his permission. He's very, very cool about it. And and he I think listened to the first couple of episodes and stuff like that, and we've used his tune from day one, and I made sure to include links to him in our About Me sections on all of our, like, on our Facebook and our on our SoundCloud and stuff like that. So we give proper credit where credit is due. We use bensound.com is where I get a lot of the like the intro for Book Club and the intro for Shots. That's where I got a lot of those tracks. These are licensed and royalty free tracks that are free use, but and Creative Commons. And you just want to make sure, moral of the story, make sure you give credit as credit is due. If there's an aspect of the podcast that you did not personally create from scratch, credit it.
I think probably the most strenuous part for me is the exporting,
right,
of every file, because that just shit. Even the added image that I do is that right there adds, like, how long does it usually take you to export your finished file?
Oh, not long. Like audio file.
Yeah.
Exporting it from Audacity only takes maybe 5 minutes. Now, uploading it to SoundCloud, depending on the size, like we've had episodes that were like over 2 gigs by the time I was done with it, and that takes a little while to upload. But yeah, the actual exporting them from Audacity takes like no time. It's the actual upload that takes a little while.
Yeah, so I suffer on both ends.
Yeah, it's not as long as your like some of the stories of your exporting are horrific. So,
I mean, I think the worst. Okay, so usually the average export time for me, just for like a standard episode, is at least over an hour.
Yeah.
And that's half the time. It's just because, like, just the added image becomes a video file, all that garbage. But like, usually takes like an hour. Even worse if I had to do any stupid effects or whatever. I'll get into that because I'll bring up that story that you're thinking of. But yeah, once I get it exported, I just upload it to YouTube. Then I go into my office and I work on the stupid thumbnails. I haven't done as many stupid ones as I used to, because I don't think there's been a lot of opportunity for me to go full stupid with the thumbnails lately.
There are times when like I have an idea for a thumbnail that's just dumb, and I'll be like, "Hey Todd, how hard would it be to do this or that?" And he'll be like, "Oh, not that hard," and he'll sort of fuck with it, and then he'll usually add something even more stupid onto it that he came up with.
Yes.
And,
like, again, my favorite thumbnail that I've ever created is the Barney one with the dollars raining down, the fucking little Thug Life glasses. But the stupid thing, if you're smart and you actually pay attention, my dumbass put we have these sprites, these like 16-bit, 8-bit like little like sprites of each of us. I'm happy I did this, because every time that I've made a stupid thumbnail, I've kept pieces of what I've worked on. So like I made a.
That's another sorry to interrupt, but that's another important thing that I should mention. Keep everything.
Oh yeah, keep everything. I legitimately bought I think it's a 2 terabyte external hard drive. I call it the Nerd Bourbon box. Everything Nerd Bourbon is on there. Seth has yet to get an external hard drive, but he's going to get it.
Yes, I'm going to get the exact same external hard drive you have. I'm going to get the 4 terabyte version, but that is yet to happen. I do need that. But keep fucking everything. Every fucking thing. Keep it.
Mm-hmm. Everything that I've ever worked on, thumbnail-wise, everything that has ever been recorded, is on my Nerd Bourbon box. So that's actually one of the reasons I love, because the thumbnail that I worked on is I ended up cutting our heads off and making it just images of our heads, and I put each of our heads on the dollars.
Yes, it was beautiful.
But loved every second of it. But now going forward, I've actually used those before. I've used those again, like over and over. Everything that I've ever worked on, it has helped me to. I utilize it in other thumbnails. I utilize it in just random bullshit.
So important.
Sometimes I just make random images and look at it.
So important to just keep all of that shit, man. I'm telling you, you have no idea when you'll need it in the future. Like, to do that stupid Skate 4 Easter egg I did, I would not have been able to do it.
Shit.
Yeah. I would not have been able to do it if I didn't keep all that shit.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, Todd gets the sort of YouTube side of it. I'm trying to think of what else. On Friday morning, like I said, I have it uploaded privately to SoundCloud, which is nice because that sort of holds it from being uploaded to our other RSS feed services like iTunes and Google Play and stuff like that. When I hit that button and I make it public on SoundCloud, that makes it public everywhere else. So I make sure at some point before I do that I write out the episode's description and have everything that I want punched in there. And Todd gets that done on the YouTube side generally as well. Sometimes I'm late with the description and I punch it in there. But whatever the case may be, we try our best to make sure that everything
can
is...
Can I speak about that? That's one of the best things I ever did with the YouTube channel. Is technically our YouTube channel is connected to our both of our YouTube, like our standard YouTube accounts.
Yeah, that is nice.
I don't remember what it's actually called, but when I had the opportunity to make it like that, I'm like, oh sweet shit, what's your email? Let me add you to this. So it works out.
Yeah,
really,
so
really
we can
well.
both sort of freely get on the Nerd Bourbon YouTube and all that, and we don't have any issues with that. Now, so generally speaking, we always have the audio on SoundCloud and iTunes and Google Play and all that. That is always, on Friday. I think once or twice the YouTube might have went up a little late because of whatever. But, we get all that together and we upload it and it's public and it's there for you guys. And all that's really left is to make the prerequisite social media posts. That's another thing I recommend doing is have some sort of social media presence because we do. If you look at our stats on SoundCloud, we do get a lot of people that find us through Facebook. Not many, but especially recently, we've actually been getting a good amount of Facebook traffic. And people find us through that. So it's important to sort of spread your wings and make sure that when you Google your podcast, a lot of shit shows up. Another little wrinkle in this, I mentioned that Todd and I, we were gluttons for punishment. We have a lot of plates that we spin. We have a Twitch channel, which has presented its own sort of set of challenges. And Todd being the video overlord, I'm gonna let you speak on the Twitch side of things.
Okay. Well, this is mainly going to end up with the horror story that you're bringing up, and it's actually changed the way I'm going to be real with you. I virtually don't even want to touch some of these videos, like editing wise.
Yeah.
Because if I do, a storm comes. So one of the first, so we dived into that because I think me and you are a firm believer in hashtag more content and hashtag good content. Now, when one of the first videos I was working on, I brightened it. I did a lot of work with more with the audio. Like I toned it down a little bit in parts and all that. And now the issue is when I went to export that motherfucker. I don't remember exactly which video it was. It might have been one of the Outlast videos. 24 plus hours.
Yeah.
I'm dead ass serious. I was just like, I couldn't believe it. It was a combination of like my computer being shit. I don't know.
Well, I think it's because I think the deal was you were trying. I think the Outlast video was like a little dark.
It was a little dark.
So you wanted to brighten
also
it.
That video was like 3 hours long.
Yeah, so you wanted to like brighten it slightly or something like that, and so like it was already like you said, like a 3 hour long video. It was one of our initial Hollow streams this year.
Yeah, I brightened it and I turned down the audio a little bit.
Yeah,
and holy shit, dude.
Yeah,
I would just like go to sleep. I'd wake up and I was like, it still isn't done. It still isn't done. Why? So going forward, though, I haven't I might occasionally brighten it, but I don't try to mess with it as much because honestly, the PS4 capture software that we use to stream at the moment is fine.
That's really all we do now. Is we just we've discussed how to get better audio quality on it, but to start off with, Twitch is a very new venture for us. We don't really fuck with it a whole lot. Once we begin to fuck with it more, we do. Once we get some money together and I become a married man that doesn't have to worry about planning and paying for a wedding.
I think we're both looking into buying a capture card and also messing with the stream, maybe OBS or whatever.
Yeah, making it a little more professional. But for right now, we just use the built-in PlayStation capture software.
Yeah, speaking of just the pure jank, I think we should bring up what we did yesterday.
Yeah, so when we did our Dragon's Dogma stream, which you may or may not have watched, it's on the YouTube archive if you want to check it out. I
don't say that. Oh wait, yeah, it should be up by now.
Yeah, by this one, yeah, hell yeah. So yeah, we fell into an issue where I was watching Todd do the Bloodborne character creation, but because of Twitch having like a sort of like 5 to 10 second lag, I was way behind watching him create his character. So I was like, I wonder if we could mitigate this by having Todd set up his webcam on Skype and me just watching him on Skype. So very, very janky, but it worked, and that's another, just find solutions. Podcasting, you're going to run into a lot of problems. Just make it work, like it's going to be fucked up and it's going to be weird and there's going to be a lot of learning experiences. Just embrace that. Like, it's going to be okay. That's kind of the bulk of our process, I think.
Yeah.
Let's we I don't want to get too mushy about this, but I do, before we wrap it up, just kind of want to talk about what podcasting means to us and sort of like what it could mean to you if you wanted to start your own podcast. I think podcasting is, for me, scratches all of my creative itches. It allows me to voice my opinion on the things that I like and the things that I want to talk about. It allows me to talk to Todd, who is, not only is he my cousin, he's like one of my best friends, and I have fun talking to him about this stuff. It allows me to have a consistent thing to look forward to every week, and it like I said, it just feels good. Like, Nerd Bourbon is a safe harbor for me, and I think podcasting can be for you too. It's a nice, especially when you're dedicated and especially when you have a set schedule. It's nice to feel like, even though not a lot of people listen to this, we don't really care because we just have a good time doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's nice to feel needed by an audience. It's nice to feel like something is riding on your active participation. Like, this show does not exist if we don't make it. And I mean, that's the definition of creativity, right? And it's nice to be creative on this show. And I just think that podcasting has really improved my life, and it's really a joy and a labor of love to record this podcast every week. And I hope that, I hope that if you get into podcasting and if you take any of this advice, if you listen to this at all, I don't know if this is interesting to listen to, but I hope it is. And if it was, and if you do take it to heart and you do start podcasting, I hope you find the great sense of reward that I know I've found from Nerd Bourbon.
Well, it's my time. It's my turn to go.
You're just going to be like, ditto.
No, dude. I'm going to be honest with you. Like, I think I bring it up a little bit in the Thanksgiving episode. I know I did. So you brought it up for me because I used the Thanksgiving episode to get a good old skate forward between the ribs.
Yes.
But honestly, like, I think you and I have both dealt with depression.
Yeah.
And still dealing with it.
Definitely.
Doing this podcast with you has been a beacon of hope in my sad, broken life.
It's just, like I said, it's just nice for, like, it takes many different shapes, this podcast. If it's a lot of different aspects of passion.
Yeah, I've said it before. It's our love child. It's very special to the both of us, and it's just like, I have a friend of mine always saying like, oh dude, like you guys are doing too much. You guys need to tone it down. But I'm just like, no, I want to do more.
Right.
Like, because I have passion for this. You have passion for it. Like, it's a very special thing in my life.
If we didn't love doing it, we wouldn't be doing it. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Like, we keep adding more shit for us to do because we legitimately love to do it. We love to be busy with this. Like,
yep. I remember actually, like, at my I work a new job now, but. And I at my old job, I even told them to like take me down a day because I wanted more time to focus on Nerd Bourbon.
Oh, I did the same thing, and like it's not like it's not like a stupid, like, oh, you're literally leaving money on the table. No, it's like, for me at least, the cut day or whatever at the job was, and that's not the only reason. I have several reasons for needing to do it, but this was a happy side effect. But but like, it was not a huge loss of money for me, and the amount of extra time I get to deal with Nerd Bourbon stuff really makes it worth it. I mean, there are weeks where I have 2 or 3 episodes to edit, and I just could not do that otherwise. And I don't know. It's like I said, it's nice. It checks a lot of those passion boxes for me. And people, I have plenty of friends that say, oh, you do too much, but there are also the people that listen to it seem to enjoy it, and there might not be a lot of people who listen to it, but every single time I have a friend that's like, you know what, I always see you spamming your bullshit on Facebook. I finally decided to listen to it, and it's pretty fucking good. I have friends that just give the podcast a chance, and they're like, it's actually high quality, and I can actually tell that you guys put a lot of work into it, and I can tell that you guys are passionate about it, and we are, and I'm glad that it shows. If you are depressed and if you want purpose, try podcasting. I think that's a good way to wrap it up. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I think we're about done here.
All right, guys. If you hopefully this was interesting to you. I'm sorry if it wasn't, but this is what we wanted to talk about. This is an evergreen episode. We needed a general purpose topic, and I think I had fun talking about it.
Same.
So anyway, you've been listening to Nerd Bourbon. If you had a good time listening to us talk about podcasts, throw us a follow or a sub on whatever service you're listening to us on. If there is a service we aren't currently on that you want us on, let me know so I can make that happen for you. Question, thoughts, comments, or concerns, please leave them. Leave me a Q. I'll provide an A. You can also find us on Facebook at facebook.com/nerdbourbon, and we are at nerdbourbon on Twitter. Beyond that, the best and only way for us to grow is for you to tell your friends. Thank you guys for listening. We will see you next week. Get fucking dunked on. Bye.
See ya.